Hi, I'm Dave Cut, and you're watching another Comic Chat. What's up, guys? Back again today with another edition in a great series of Hellverine. And this is technically Volume 1, Lost Highways. There were 2 books previously, so it actually has it here on the beginning, the first page. It has Ghost Rider and Wolverine and the Weapons of Vengeance. And this was where it started. This was the origin story to Baghra Ghul, when he first takes over Wolverine and Ghost Rider has to help and save and free Wolverine from the demon Baghra Ghul. But after he does that, then it goes into the Hellverine Resurrection book, where we saw the demon Baghra Ghul inhabit the body of Wolverine's son Akihiro, who had been torn apart and left to pieces. So this is Volume 1 of the Hellverine series on his own, called The Lost Highways. And it starts with a little background for you so we can all get to know the story before we dive in. So this is Hellverine Rides Again. The demon Baghra Ghul possessed Wolverine, turning him into a killing machine. But Logan is no stranger to caging the beast within his soul, and the demon learned his heroic ways. Now it's resurrected in Logan's son, Akihiro, and the two must learn to live as one, as the Hellverine. But they can't do it alone. Enter Doctor Strange. But Akihiro will discover his rebirth was only part of a larger, diabolical story. What danger lurks at his former grave sites? And is there anything the Hellverine can do to stop it? What does Baghra Ghul want with him? And how is his demon linked to Mephisto? As the answers are revealed, the Hellverine is about to go through hell, but you can bet he'll come out swinging. In Resurrection with the Destroyers. The demon Baghra Ghul had possessed a young boy, using his body as a vessel to transform into a hellfire-fueled monster that would kill innocents and stitch them together in horrific work of arts. Wolverine and Ghost Rider defeated Baghra Ghul, but not before it possessed Wolverine, transforming him as well. Wolverine was able to reject the demon and lock it away, but the experience changed Baghra Ghul. When it escaped its prison, it sought out a new host, one like Wolverine. It found the recently deceased son of Wolverine, Akihiro, and brought him back to life. Together, they cut through evil in the world with hellfire claws as the Hellverine. And this is Chapter 1. And this story starts out with Akihiro / Hellverine on the road, trying to catch a few hours of sleep each night. But the nightmares always catch up with him, and they burn, as Hellverine always keeps him up. Just the fact that he doesn't really know who he is, or what he is. And he never really has. From the time when his mom was killed by Romulus, when she was pregnant with him, to the time when he was raised by another family, and everybody in the village called him Dakin, or the bastard mongrel. And he killed one of his tormentors, just as he killed his adoptive mother, who despised him and her child. And for a long time, he let that moment define him. But then he embraced it. He embraced the name Dakin, because he felt like he deserved it. Because if he did not deserve love, then he would specialize in hate and pain. And his father by blood is Wolverine, and he blamed him for everything that happened to him, everything that he had become. He hunted him for years. He hunted him to death, as Wolverine drowned him in a shallow puddle in a battle that they had. To the present time where Akihiro is washing his face off in a bathroom, because he's always had demons, but now that's quite literally true. As he steps out of the bathroom to the gas station, where a man is thinking that he's about to stab some people in the face, the heart, and the stomach. And the Hellverine can now sense that. He can feel evil, and the demon inside him delights in it. And just as he goes to make his move on robbing the place, Akihiro grabs him by the hand and says, "You've killed 7 people. That's 7 people that you've murdered. You buried some in shallow graves, you hid others in the woods. You cut up one and put them in the trash can, but you can't hide them from me." and singes the guy's hand and turns into the Hellverine and pops the claws out. Kind of like the penance there, if you guys have seen like Ghost Rider. To where he's back on the road in Georgia, and even though Bagragul doesn't have a voice, his presence is felt. And it kind of feels like his heart is full of boiling pus and cobwebs are holding together his joints. And then, when evil is near, like this semi-trailer that he passes full of kidnapped victims, the demon inside of him comes to life and takes over. And Akihiro just kind of becomes a passenger. And Akihiro is alive, but he's also dead. He exists in a state of in-betweens, because Bagragul chose him as a toast. For eons, it served Mephisto as a punishing artist, building monuments that celebrated suffering. Then, it was summoned to the world above, and grafted first onto a boy named Bram, and later onto Wolverine. Something happened then. The killing continued, but Wolverine's strength somehow sculpted the sculptor. Logan's attempt to focus his own bestiality tendencies toward altruistic ends gave the demon a new goal. Evil became more than its muse, but also its target, as this was the first battle with Wolverine and the Ghost Rider when he was possessed by Bagragul. 2. When Bagragul was exorcised from Wolverine, and it chose a body that was familiar to it. Although his carcass was torn apart by Sabretooth and stitched back together into punishing instruments for the demon, he finally became the Hellverine and lived. And he ended up leaving behind everyone. He left behind Wolverine, who wanted to help him. He left behind Project Hellfire, who wanted to recruit him, because he just wanted to find some answers on his own. And he's just out in the woods contemplating this and thinking about if he's as evil as the thing he punishes. As a little girl approaches him, soaking wet and sobbing. As she runs away, he chases after, to a cabin on the lake, where the little girl runs in and drowns. And as Akihiro jumps in to save her, we can see that there's a bunch of bodies strung up at the bottom of this lake. And that ghost was just trying to get Akihiro to find them all, to help them. And Hellverine's starting to realize something, because he's been on the run and he's been scared of what's inside of him, scared what he might do. But every time that demon draws him closer towards evil, as he exits the lake, full of flames, full Hellverine. And every time the Hellverine takes over, he gets a little bit of relief of some pressure that's been boiling up inside of him. And it's kind of like Bagragul needs some sort of outlet, and repressing the demon just makes things worse. It's lust, it's hunger, whatever you want to call it, it needs to be satisfied. As the guy inside the cabin's drink starts getting really, really hot, he says, "As hot as hell," and Hellverine bursts through the door. Till later, we see Akihiro couldn't just leave the children in that lake. They deserved a proper burial. And he thinks it's strangely cathartic to help them, as if he was trying to reach out to some younger, broken version of himself. Maybe he could make a good bit of difference in his own terrible way, as he killed the guy and made it a horrific monument out of his body. And he helped those dead kids because they needed help, because they felt unsettled, pained and tormented, floating in that liminal space between life and death. As Akihiro thinks he could take a lesson from them, maybe he could find a little bit of peace if he just asked for help. And magic and occultism have never really been Akihiro's problem. His life is now one big haunted highway, as we see him pulling up to the Sanctum Sanctorum. And before he can raise his hand and knock on the door opens, revealing Doctor Strange. And he looks like he hasn't showered in weeks, but he imagines the feeling is mutual. Doctor Strange lets him know that he's being inhabited by an infernal force. Akihiro asks for his help, but Doctor Strange doesn't know if he can help him. He's not even the Sorcerer Supreme anymore. But he'll try, and warns Akihiro if he tries anything, he'll destroy him without hesitation, as he welcomes him in. And as they're in the study looking through books, Doctor Strange knows that the demon is parasitic, but is puzzled by its choice in host. It's clear what Akihiro gets out of the deal, he gets to live again, but couldn't Bagragul choose someone better? As Akihiro wouldn't really call it life that he got from Bagragul, Doctor Strange questions him about how he doesn't just kill these people, he makes sculptures, arts out of the horror, as he tells him they're not just merely random doodles. But it would be helpful if Doctor Strange could see one of these sculptures that he's made. But Akihiro barely remembered his name a few weeks ago. He couldn't remember anything about a map and where these sculptures were. As Doctor Strange says, maybe he could build another. Akihiro is like, are you serious? You really want me to go kill someone right now? And is kind of fed up with this whole thing and slaps the book out of Doctor Strange's hand and says, forget the books. You want me to form a telepathic link? I don't know if it's wise, but I'll show you. So he takes him to the convenience store where he had interrupted that robbery. Yeah, that's crazy. I don't know about that. That's pretty demonic. Then he takes him to the road where he discovered the truckers with a trailer full of trafficking victims, as he has another demonic monument out of their bodies. That's crazy. Then he took him deeper as we see the connection to Mephisto before Doctor Strange shoves him off him, saying, don't ever touch me again. Akihiro asks him, what did he learn? So Doctor Strange starts out by telling him, you were wrong about Bag-Ra Ghul turning a new leaf after binding with Logan, and that Bag-Ra Ghul is still very much a citizen of Hell and a servant of Mephisto. And as Akihiro thinks that can't be right because the people that they kill are, Doctor Strange interrupts him by saying evil. Evil's a slippery word, one that's usually rooted in pain, fear, and hate, qualities that Dakin specializes in. And he believes Mephisto has a plan for both Bag-Ra Ghul and Akihiro that's already in motion, and warns Akihiro that if he doesn't put a stop to this plan, that he'll make sure his dream of never existing at all comes true. As Doctor Strange opens a door for Akihiro to one of his horrific monuments, he tells him this is the first step on your journey, the North Pole, where the demon first summoned you from your grave, where Hellverine was born, and where something foul has now taken root. Chapter 2. And Doctor Strange sent him to the North Pole, where his life ended and where it began again, where Sabretooth tore him to pieces, condemning him to death, and where Bag-Ra Ghul stitched him back together again, reviving him as his host. He abandoned that place, but something clearly remained, something he needed to put a stop to. And Hellverine is like an uninvited guest in Akihiro's body. He can usually slam the door shut, but if he really wants to, he'll break in through the windows. They're both still trying to figure out who controls who and how much one needs the other, as Akihiro shows up to a greenhouse that he went to a lifetime ago. One the X-Force had built back when Krakoa ended and the mutants were banished and hunted, and it appeared to be abandoned but only recently. And as he walks around, he finds food that can only be more than a week old, and news items and intel that made it seem like they were trying to find their place in this world. But something scared them away from this safe haven, or something worse happened to him. Akihiro finds a dead, rotting body on a table. The smell of sulfur and rot pours over her, and as he turns around saying, "Who's there?" he's almost hit by an energy blast. By someone who says, "Get away from me, get away from here." And with Bag-Ra Ghul floating inside of him, he can sense evil, and this wasn't evil. This kid was just scared, as he dodges another blast and gets a hit on the kid, knocking the kid back, and then he pops out his claws, and that's when the kid realizes he's just like him. He's not one of them. As Akihiro tells him, "No, you can trust me." They both sit down as this kid thinks, we shouldn't be out in the open. We should stay hidden and quiet. Akihiro calms him and just wants to know what happened. That he's safe right now. He can trust him. He just wants to know what happened here. What brought them all here? And the kid tells him the same thing that probably brought you here. He wanted to live someplace where people didn't want to kill him. Akihiro forms a telepathic link with this kid to see what had happened, even though he's still trying to figure out the limits of this infernal sense. It's kind of like a compass that leads to the darkness inside and outside of people. He can see that everyone in the greenhouse had tasks that they were responsible for. That include hunting. A mutant named Celine enjoyed stalking the ice hummocks, and Evan would often join her. They would bring back caribou, bear, wolf, seal. The wind shear disturbed her aim. She hadn't killed the animal with the first shot, so they followed the blood trail, and it led them to death, as there's a bunch of dead animals around this pit. Evan could hear something in the undersound, like a whispering. It wanted them to come closer. It wanted to share a secret with them. Evan and Celine did not know what we know, that this had been his burial site. That this had been where Bagra Ghul consummated their unholy union, as Celine just walks into this fiery pit of death. And Evan dragged Celine back to the greenhouse, and she screamed most of the way. The rest of the mutants were horrified by what they had heard. Sometimes she sounded like herself, sometimes she didn't, her voice dropping into a raw bass. She had second and third degree burns on her body, but the problem went deeper. It coughs up a black substance. She befouled them. She bit them, and when she came after Evan, he had no choice but to attack her back as he blew a hole through her stomach, and it looked like she turned into a vampire. That's with the fangs and everything. And that's when Evan tells him that he just hid and wait till Akihiro showed up. And Akihiro tells him it's not too late to help. That's when Evan takes Akihiro outside, because even though he doesn't entirely know who he is and doesn't exactly entirely trust Akihiro yet, he's got to show him this, because this scares the hell out of him. Because all these monuments have been erecting around this pit, at the side of this crater. Well, as we could see, one of the demonic monuments there. Akihiro tells Evan he's not going to lie to him. He's a part of all of this, and he's probably the one to blame for it. But he'll be damned if he's going to stand by and let it continue. And Akihiro recognized the monuments as some kind of red code written for like a computer made from bones and extrails. Probably the one that's letting hell seep into the world. And no matter what, he's going to destroy it as he transforms into Hellverine. And as infected mutants start to attack Hellverine, he thinks he doesn't want to hurt his own kind. He can smell the rot and the sulfur coming off the bodies. It's just like the demon in the medical bay. A pile of hell stuffed into a mutant skin. Which brings him back to the question, why here? Why build an altar breaching hell and encouraging the possession when the only ones around are mutants? The demon inside him has no voice, but it does have feelings, impulses, desires, and he understands things about it, the same way he understands hunger or the need to breathe, but he still has no idea what they want with him. So we see Evan was giving a full energy blast to the monument, trying to bring it down before he's interrupted by one of his fellow mutants, grabbing him and just about to bite him, before Hellverine comes in and cuts her head off. Because when Bagra Ghul takes over, when he becomes the Hellverine, he feels like he's watching the world from the other side of a bonfire. He wants to help Evan, but the demon inside wants to hurt him. Furious to see its work undone, as Evan gets back up and starts destroying the monument again, Hellverine charges at Evan, and Evan questions him. I thought you said I don't need to be afraid of you. And Akihiro does his best to conjure up guilt, remembering the moment when he killed his adopted mother and her unborn child. Then he does his best to conjure up shame, remembering that Doctor Strange threatened to end him if he didn't learn to control the worst parts of himself, as he gains just enough control to redirect that hellfire and burn down the monument. But as the monument burns down, one of Hell's creature crawls from the pit and drags Evan down with it, as Hellverine helplessly stands by, screaming Evan. But he was too late. Hell has him now. All the good he tries to do is never enough. As Doctor Strange shows back up, telling Akihiro to get up, because there is no rest for the wicked. Akihiro tells Strange he's done what he's asked. Strange tells him he's afraid we're just getting started. He's been doing a little research, and there's some very dangerous magic at loose in the world right now. The magic of hell, and it's after all of mutant kind. So that brings us to Chapter 3, The Devil's Orphan. As Akihiro makes it to his childhood house and enters, he thinks how this is all where the pain began, decades ago, a childhood he never knew. As he walks around thinking how things could have been different, a house full of sunlit memories. Instead, it's just a place of if-onlys and might-have-beens. The love that he never knew replaced only with hate. And as he walks into another room, where his mom had died with him in her belly, he notices a hole in the center of the room. But not just that, a faint smell of sulfur in the air. And something else strikes him as curious. The boards not only appear freshly broken, but there's also something sketched upon them. And when he puts them together, he can see it's a blood ciphers, ceremonial. And that's when he's ambushed and someone traps him with a net. As they question who he is, he pops out the hell claws as they start calling him a demon, a monster, a devil. He breaks free, but instead of fighting back, he tries to plead with them, telling them that this is his mom's house. He is the last orphan son of Itsui, even though he may not look like it. And he puts away the claws, and he tells them, I came here to help. But Akihiro's mom died before any of those guys were ever born, and his healing factor makes it look like he's a liar or even a monster. But they must be desperate if they're at least willing to hear what help he's willing to offer, as they lead Akihiro up the hill to a church and bang on the doors. And this is a temple to celebrate the 7 gods. But as soon as he's shoved through the threshold of the temple, the demon Bagragul starts turning inside of him. And Akihiro can tell there's protection here. Kind of like the protection a Christian gets from a crucifix. As the leader of the village leads Akihiro further in, he questions him, saying it doesn't hurt? And Akihiro says it does. And the man says, but you don't cry out or try to run. Akihiro tells him, no, this village didn't protect his mom. It didn't protect him after she died. And he's got every reason to hate this village. But even though he can't fully explain it, everything that's happening there is tied up with him, and he needs to be the one to stop it. So the leader gives Akihiro a talisman and tells him it's meant to shield its holder as the demon stops swelling inside him. The leader tells him, don't make him regret it. As he tells Akihiro he wants him to meet someone, but Akihiro is shocked to find that it's the leader's son chained up. And when he questions the leader, why is your son chained up? The leader tells him it's to protect him from her and himself. So this all started when the man with the red cloak came to town. Mephisto. Nobody can remember seeing him except out of the corner of their eye. He went to your house, Itsui's house, which was always considered a stained place. It belonged, after all, to the murdered lover of mutants, the cursed mother of mutants. And that night, the smell of rot filled the air as the man with the red cape carved the incantation, summoning someone. As we see, it was Mephisto. And that night, dogs howled and birds screamed. Nightmares crawled at their sleep. And soon after that, their children began disappearing, one by one. From a little girl walking her dog, disappearing, and her dog ending up dead, to even under their own roof. They could not protect them. So many people moved away in fear, and the ones who remained spend their days searching for their lost children, and their nights hiding in the temple. And that's when Akihiro remembers something and pulls out the Book of Lamentation, an unholy book, and finds the symbol that was carved on the ground. And he's not sure how to translate the word defiler. I think I did, but maybe I'm not. I don't know. He starts telling the people of the town, if something bad happens, it leaves a stain on the world. And this hell magic makes that stain into a creature. That's when he's interrupted by an eeeeee. As Akihiro questions, what the hell is that? The little boy says, it's her. It's mother. But the leader is kind of confused because the boy's mother is right here. But Akihiro has an idea what he meant. And as Akihiro starts to leave out the door, the leader stops him, telling him, there are children out there too. And whatever darkness is inside you, you cannot let it hurt them. As we can see the sound just continue. And the boy tries going toward the noise, even though he's chained up. Sprinting to the point where he broke his ankle, allowing him to slide out of his cuffs and continue going, saying, mother, mother, I'm coming. And even with the broken ankle, he's able to charge right past Akihiro and his dad, running into the woods, as his dad and Akihiro chase after him, and the rest of the villagers block them out. And as Akihiro's chasing after the boy running through the forest, his infernal sense is spinning like a compass. It seems to be evil is all around them, but he can hear something just up ahead. And unfortunately, boy's father, the leader, gets impaled by a trunk. As Akihiro questions what happened, the leader just tells him, behind you. As the Hellverine takes over Akihiro as he turns around, Akihiro thinks to himself, it's a good thing that he did take over, because he didn't know if he could face what comes creeping out of the darkness. It was a defiled version of what he's always wanted. It was Itsui. It was his mother. freaking demonic mother, because it's even got the little baby demon coming out of her stomach, man. Somebody really conjured this one up. And that brings us to Chapter 4, The Drowning Man. We still start out in Japan, just outside of Jasmine Falls, where Akihiro's demon mother orders a swarm of abducted kids to attack. And Hellverine doesn't want to fight these kids. He's trying to save these kids. And he doesn't really want to raise a hand against his mother either. But he's not the only one caught in a painful trap. Haru, the leader of the village, had also lost his village, his son, and now maybe his life, as he struggles to free himself from being impaled on the tree stump. And when he's able to free himself, his son comes up saying, "Father, how much do you love me? Do you love me to death?" Ready to attack his father, as he's taken over by hell now too. And all these hell kids are swarming Hellverine, as he's just thinking he has to come up with a plan. He can't hurt these kids, but he can hurt himself. He's been studying a lot in that Book of Lamentation, and comes up with a genius plan as he marks his chest. All the kids start to run, as we see this mark conjures horror. It makes others see their worst nightmares. It's awesome, he gets hell magic now. And as the children run in fear, the mother walks up, grabbing Hellverine by the hand and lifting him up, ready to eat him. But Hellverine's having none of that, and breaks free and plunges his claws into her head and blasts her with hellfire. And just as the kid Botan is just about to bite his father, Hellverine finishes the job and cuts his mother's head off, thinking that maybe this will atone for some of his sins. And that was enough to break Botan free. Just before killing his father, they hug and embrace, because honestly his dad still might die. He has a giant hole in his chest. So Akihiro walks up to the burning building, thinking fire cleans. It cauterizes, it hurts, it even heals. The same could be said about the fire inside of him. He sees Dakin in this deformity. He doesn't hate it, he doesn't feel sorry for it, because he too wanted to infect others with his pain. And now he just wants to provide a cure by eating everyone else's suffering, as he just goes to town, making sure this demon never comes back up. And in the end, Akihiro burned down his old family house, and he made sure that the villagers knew that it was Mephisto responsible for what had happened to them, not mutants. And as Akihiro tries to give the protection shield back to the leader, who actually made it, he survived, but the leader tells him to keep it. He thinks he'll need it in his journeys up ahead, and boy is he right. And Akihiro's off to the next location, because he's left a lot of scars on the world. From the North Pole, where Sabretooth tore him to pieces, to Jasmine Falls, where Romulus killed his mother with him orphaned inside of her. Mephisto is tearing those scars wide open, using the pain of them as a conduit for his work, spreading fear and hate in the form of anti-mutant sentiment. And that's why Akihiro's at his next destination, Genosha, where years ago, his father Wolverine drowned him in a shallow puddle. And these days, the capital of Genosha is this high-tech metropolis run by an algorithm, Gagosha. But not everybody liked the surveillance, so a couple people left and fled. But a different kind of trouble found them here, as there's death to muties written on the wall. There's a group of pro-mans who have established themselves as a local militia. They're hunting for a mutant killer that looks a lot like Akihiro. Like, literally looks like Akihiro. So, Akihiro spends the next days eavesdropping in bars, watching alleyways, checking out newspapers tossed in trash cans. A damp sheen seems to be over the neighborhood. Everything seems to drip and ooze. People hear voices spiraling out of the drains. Bathwater can go from lukewarm to boiling hot like that. Even a glass of tap water can shut down your kidneys and eat a hole in your stomach. If that's not bad enough, dozens have died of drownings while asleep in their bed. Asleep? Like, come on. And eventually, he finds what he's looking for. The place where Wolverine and him fought so long ago, where his father drowned him in a shallow pool. Sorry, it's tragic, but it's weird. Shallow pool, you get drowned. And as he's going down memory lane, he's interrupted by one of the militia who questions who he is. As he walks over, threatening Akihiro, water from the fire hydrant actually comes up and drags this guy down into the sewer. And no Pennywise was in this. And this man cries out for help before inevitably he's killed by getting sucked through the drain. His cries for help were enough to get the attention of the other militia as they see Dakin, the only guy around. So he has to take off running. And as he's running, that's when he realizes it's the water. There's something damned in the water, and his death stained it. But water's everywhere, so this demon must be everywhere, and it wants to contaminate everyone and everything. And what appears from the water seems to be some Dakin Akihiro water clone, and the militiamen stop right in their tracks, confused because it's him, but it doesn't look like him, but they're gonna kill it anyway. But this water clone's firing water bullets at one guy, trapping another guy's head in a ball of water, drowning him right there on land. Even the guy that actually lands a hit doesn't actually land a hit because his bat just goes straight through the water clone. And the water clone goes straight through him until there was one guy left. And when the water clone tries to attack him, Akihiro steps in with the Hell Claws and tells him to get out of here and to remember to tell everybody who saved him, a mutant. But in an instant, Akihiro goes from fighting to drowning, immersed in a reflection of his self. He gasps for air that's not there, as he thinks this is a sensation that feels sickeningly familiar. He can even feel his father, Wolverine, hands on his hair, shoving his face into the puddle, even faintly hearing his voice on the wind, telling him to stop fighting him, Dakin, as we see it's Mephisto that says, "Well, I'll return you to the grave I dug you out of." And this is Chapter 5, the final chapter, the Mephisto Conspiracy. And as he sinks further and further in drowning, he thinks how this is the worst death possible, and he would know. And he thinks maybe it's because our most basic instinct, our very first task after being born, is to clear our lungs of fluid and take that big gulp of fresh air. So the suffering goes straight to the deepest part of your brain, where the will to live begins. Then he starts to see something red. The red of a womb, the red of blood, the red of his beginning and his end, the red of the devil himself, the red of hell, the red of his maker, Mephisto. He grabs Akihiro by the back of the coat and tells him, "What's the matter, Dakin? Can't breathe? I think I see your problem. You've got something. It's deep in there. You've bitten off more than you can chew." As he puts his fingers in Akihiro's mouth, and going even further, putting his whole hand down his mouth and pulling out a worm, saying, "There you are. You're a weak, pathetic, festering wound that's never healed." And then fully pulls out the demon Bagra Ghoul, telling Akihiro, "This was my gift to you. This is what gave you strength. Maybe you need a lesson in humility. Maybe you need a reminder of what you are." As Bagra Ghoul approaches Akihiro, he's just a vehicle of Mephisto's whims, a sculptor of pain, as we see Bagra Ghoul stitching up Akihiro, into a horrific monument. As Mephisto tells him, "Now that we have a captive audience, let me show you what we're building." He starts out by telling Akihiro, mutants are feared for a good reason. They are superior. The evolution signals a future of dim-shed human power, possible enslavement, eventual extinction. If he can control mutant kind, he will not only stoke the furnaces of fear and hatred that fuel hell, but he can control the planet. As we see some Hell X-Men. Ooh, that's actually pretty cool. They got some good costumes on there. Oh, the Nightcrawler too? Hell Nightcrawler? Yeah, okay. He goes on to tell him, you can be an instrumental part of this, as his most powerful agent of chaos and suffering. Or Akihiro can remain here. He already tore down his monuments, so Mephisto's gonna do the same and tear down his body and spirit. After all, Akihiro has 7 trillion nerves, and Mephisto can play them like a fiddle whenever he likes. But in the end, leaves it up to Dakin, what he wants. He never even asked him if he wanted the responsibility, before, of course, Akihiro resisted him. So he gives him this chance now. This is his crossroads. Will Dakin make a bargain with the devil and join him and live? And as Akihiro comes back together, Mephisto questions him one last time. Will you serve me and shape the world? Akihiro thinks about how there's something purifying about losing everything. You realize you don't matter. Right now, all the resentment and hurt and insecurities that he's been carrying around, it's gone. It's been burned out of him. If he's going to live, It won't be for revenge, spite, or power, or any of those ugly motivations. It won't be for himself. It will be for others. And that's when Akihiro charges at the demon Bagragul. As Mephisto says, very good. Akihiro pops his claws and strikes at the chest of the demon Bagragul. And he gets Bagragul a couple more times, till Mephisto steps in, telling him how disappointing he is. But amusing. Like, Akihiro really thought he could topple the demon using only basically what are fingernails to Mephisto. And that's when Akihiro stops him. He didn't try to hurt him. He was trying to mark him. And the symbol that he left on Bagragul is actually a possession cipher, straight out of the Book of Lamentations, as now he has control over Bagragul as they bond again, and turns it into the Hellverine, telling Mephisto this demon is now his to claim. Mephisto tries to command him to stop this at once, but Hellverine charges at him, telling him that you gave me the power to choose. You gave me the power to take you down. And not only that, he chooses to topple every monument built in celebration of Mephisto. He chooses to exorcise any mutant that he's possessed. And he chooses to turn Hell's arsenal against itself and fight fire with fire as he hits Mephisto one last time, leading to a huge explosion, blasting him backwards. And even though that sent Hellverine flying into a wall, he just gets right back up. As Mephisto starts thinking, what has he created? Looking at his own blood. But Hellverine's right back on him, spitting hellfire right at Mephisto, before Mephisto turns into Akihiro's lost love, tricking him as he watches her burn, thinking, what has he done? Even transforming back and running to the burning skeleton, saying, Aurora, please, no. But, of course, it wasn't her. You can know the devil is the Lord of Illusion and still fall under his spell. He knows how to jam his thumb into the rotten parts of you as he takes Akihiro and throws him into a pit. Depression, anxiety, insecurity, guilt, shame, grief. He's drowning in all of it. An easy mark. But that's not going to stop him from fighting back, to where he's back drowning in the demon in Genosha. He thinks he did not win exactly, but neither did Mephisto. He dragged him to hell to end him, or to own him, and he gave him neither. But he did hurt him, even scare him a little, bad enough that he had to trick him into depowering, so that he could hurl him back out of his realm and into the real world. And now, Hellverine's no longer a puppet, or a weapon. Bagragul is his to control, and they are the Hellverine, as he transforms and breaks out of the water demon. He's met by Dr. Spivey and Project Hellfire, who tell them that they've been a step behind Hellverine for far too long, and that the president has ordered his immediate extraction, whether he agrees to join them or not, because Project Hellfire needs him again, because they've got a big problem on their hand. As you can see, the target is the Hell Hulk. Story will be continued. We flipped through some of the variant covers. Number 1, that's pretty cool. They got some nice variant covers in here. They got variant number 1 variant by Dave Johnson. That's pretty cool. The Hellverine Ride or Fry. They got 2 more variant covers. One with Doctor Strange. Then a broken off Akihiro Tombstone. That's pretty cool. Ooh. Even having the number 2 variants. That's pretty cool. The number 2 variant by Dan and David. That's pretty crisp on the left. I like that one. It's very clean. Very nice. Number 3 variant cover. Ooh, number 4 invisible variant cover with the Invisible Woman. She hasn't been in any of these stories, so that's kind of random, but I like that. That's a good one. Versus the Hellverine. Maybe that's going to be an upcoming story. To some variant cover 4s. Pretty cool. Akihiro holding himself. Or maybe that's Wolverine when he was Hellverine holding Akihiro. And last but not least, number 5 variant covers. Looks like we got the Hell Hulk there. Up against Mephisto. And last but not least, number 5 variant. They even got the book before this. Even Hellverine, The Resurrection. Great story too. That was the end of Hellverine Lost Highways. This is my first Dakin story too. I'm not too familiar on the story of Wolverine's son. I did buy a couple books from him when I went to Comic-Con. A couple of the Dark Wolverine series, so we'll check that out too. But yeah, great story with the Hellverine. I kind of hope they continue going on. So far I can tell that there's only 4 books. The Origin, the Resurrection, this book, and then the next one after this. with the Hell Hulk. So yeah, I'm hoping they continue the story. I'm loving the reads, and I'm loving everything about it. I mean, even in this storyline, we saw Doctor Doom is actually the Sorcerer Supreme, and Doctor Strange has to go off to Asgard to get stronger to beat him, which that's crazy too. They say that's in Doctor Strange of Asgard issue number 1, so I might have to check that one out too. Or even the part where Wolverine drowns Daken in a shallow puddle. Like, they say that one happened in the Uncanny X-Force number 34. So there's a lot to go over, a lot to get into, but I'm really hoping this story continues. Or even his past, like how Romulus killed his mother and how he killed his adoptive mother. Like, so much has happened. There's so many timelines and different dimensions where anything could happen. So let me know what you guys know. Fill in some blanks. Let me know the story, your favorite story of Daken, if you're liking the Hellverine series, and we'll be back with the Hell Hulk in the next one. Till then, guys, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for hanging out. Have a good one.